Hey friends, Graham here from the recordingrevolution.com. And here's a little tip for you. When you're sitting down to mix a song, whether it's your own song or for a client, when you've got a good balance going on with the faders and you're feeling like you've got things initially where you want them to be and you're thinking about EQ and you're trying to sculpt and shape things and make things fit, there is an EQ move that you can do before you actually reach for an EQ. And I want you to think like this. I want you to think of before you actually reach for an EQ, there's one thing you want to do that can change your EQ, change the tone of your tracks, and change what you do with EQ. And it's very, very simple. I've shown this in a few different ways, and every time it creeps up, I want to show it to you in a different context so that you see how important this is. And that is to check the phase of stereo instruments. Okay, you may not deal with any stereo instruments, but I've got an example here. We're doing a song for our dueling mixers. And this month it's a really fun song, but take a brief listen to what it sounds like here. Really fun track. And there's two tracks in particular that checking the phase of altered the tonality of these tracks, which changed how I approach them in the EQ process. In fact, doing this one move actually saved me from applying really any EQ to these tracks, believe it or not. So let me show you what I'm talking about. The first is the drums. Here they are. And in particular, the room mic, which is really two mics. So let me turn this up here. This is a stereo room mic track that I got. So I don't know if it was spaced pair, I don't know if it's XY, I don't know how it was mic'd, but I have a stereo room mic, which means there was two microphones used to capture the room of the drum kit. Now, I have this on two playlists. This is how the room mics sounded when they were given to me. Now that might sound fine to you, but something about it seemed weird to me. When you have things that either seem weird tonality-wise or the stereo image on a stereo track seems kind of weird, you might want to double check for phase. So before I did any EQ, I did my good old-fashioned zoom in. Let's just take a look at this yellow track here. And lo and behold, you start to see something. You start to see if these are the two waveforms, the left and the right. When the left microphone is dipping down in its cycle on the wave, the right microphone is dipping up. And when the left microphone is dipping up, the right microphone is dipping down. And you've seen this before if you've watched some of my videos. This is a problem. This means that these two tracks, although they're capturing the room and they're a stereo pair, and it looks like audio is hitting them around the same time, they are 180 degrees out of phase, which is changing the way we hear and the way we feel these room mics. So initially, if I don't go and do this, I might reach for an EQ to try to tweak the sound to make it sound better. But what I did was split this track out into a pair of mono tracks. You can do this in a bunch of different ways, and I've shown this before in Pro Tools. You can right-click the track and choose split to mono. And that allows you to then control the tracks as two mono tracks. And what I did was just flip the phase of one of them and slap them back together into a stereo track. And what I did was put that on a new playlist. So when I flip it, here is the fixed stereo track, where all I've done is swap the phase of one side. So I left the right side the same, flipped the left side. So now when the left goes up, the right goes up. When the left goes down, the right goes down. Now they are in phase. Now they sound very different. Did you catch that? Maybe not. Let's flip back and forth. Here are the room mics the way they were recorded. And as I'm pressing play, over here I'm just going to grab this arrow and flip to the second playlist, which is the fixed polarity of the drums. No EQ, no tweaking, just flipping the phase of one side of the stereo room mics. And here, not only the tone, let's say, think about the kick drum, listen for the kick drum, but also think about and listen for the stereo image, how clear and focused the stereo image is. So we'll start with before, and then we'll flip to after and go back and forth. Pretty drastic, right? Pretty huge difference. And it seems a lot more focused and clear. It's almost like you don't realize what's missing. You think the first one's okay, and then you hear the corrected phase room mic, and you go, oh, that sounds clear. The weight and the kick drum comes back. That's something I could blend in with my drums and get a good tone. And consequently, I didn't need any EQ on the room mic, just left it as is. All right, same issue with the piano, okay? This piano in this song is really what's cool about this song. It's what drives the song, and it was mic'd up in a few different ways. There's a mid-side stereo mic technique here on the piano, which gives it that sort of space. But there's also close mic technique where there's an SM57 on the piano, and there's also an SM7, maybe an SM7B on the piano. These mics seem to be doing the exact same thing. They were probably just both pointed at the piano, and I don't know if it was intended to pick one, which one sounded better, they hadn't decided on day of recording, or if it was to blend the two together. And sometimes I'll blend, sometimes I'll just drop one entirely. But what I want to show you is a similar phase problem, not the exact same phase problem, but similar phase problem, and albeit a little more subtle, but how we thickened up the piano sound. Because if you play the two together, this is what you get. It sounds fine. It's not a stereo issue like the room mics were. However, if I play these two together, I think, okay, it sounds punchy, it sounds clear, but maybe it's a little on the thin side. And if this is the dominant instrument, I might want a little bit more body in this piano sound. So what I might do is then reach for an EQ and start to warm up or fatten out this piano track. That's where at least my mind goes. But look what happens if you zoom in on this track real quick. It's a little more subtle than the room mic, but you start to see some phase issues. So the green is the 57 and the pink below it is the SM7. So when this goes up, this one's going up as well. This goes down, this one's going down as well. So they seem in phase for the most part. But then you kind of have this one going down and this one going up. They're out of phase. This one going down, this one going up. So parts of the audio wave are completely out of phase with each other, and parts of it are completely in phase. And I'm not smart enough to know what to do with that, but I like to work in simple moves. And one thing I try to do is if I see things that look wacky like that, I try to, just like with the drums, invert by 180 degrees one of the tracks and see if it helps. Okay, I don't really do a lot of shifting around in time. I really just try to, if I flip the phase of one of the two, does it help or does it hurt? And if it helps, great. If it hurts, then I leave it. Okay, so in this case, I grabbed a trim plugin in Pro Tools and pay less attention to the fact that this is a trim plugin, whatever that means. But what this plugin has is the Polarity Invert button. It's a phase flip button. It can be normal or you can flip the phase. Normal, flip the phase. You can do this on almost any plugin. Even the EQs in Pro Tools have this button on them. You just grab the 7-band EQ, and it's got the same button right up here, phase invert. A lot of plugins have this. A lot of the Waves plugins have it as well. All that matters is I wanted to flip the phase, and this is just a different way of doing it. I could do it on the actual track, or I could do it on a plugin. So in this case, when the plugin is bypassed, piano 1 is normal. When I engage the plugin, it engages the phase flipping. That's the only thing I'm doing with this plugin. So what I want you to do is listen to the pianos together, and then I'm going to bring in the phase flipping. Okay, and you're going to hear what it does. So actually, I'll unbypass the plugin. I'll just flip the phase button so you can watch me do that. So normal, and then flip the phase, and listen for the low end. Listen for the weight to come back in the piano. So the thing that I was going to reach for with an EQ. Here we go. Let me zoom out here. Here we go. You hear that? There's that nice weight I was thinking about. This sounds like a real piano, right? I would have tried to EQ that in, but it was just a phase problem. And so correcting it really quickly, I mean, this takes more time to explain than it does to implement, okay? It's a very simple thing I'm explaining to you here. But choosing to do this one move on both the room mics and the piano here saved me from needing any EQ on these pianos. The EQs sounded great. The piano sounded great the way they were. So I didn't even have to reach for an EQ. And that's not really what I'm saying is that I don't want you to have to EQ. I'm just saying there is an element of EQ that happens before you EQ. And that is making sure that any stereo tracks or anytime you have multiple mics on a source, which includes both of these scenarios, you want to just make sure things sound good. And if things sound weird or you're not sure, you might want to zoom in and just see what do the waveforms look like and see if anything looks out of phase with each other. And then experiment. Flip the phase of one of the two and see if it helps. And go with the direction that sounds better versus worse. It's very simple. And it might give you a better tone, better clarity, and better stereo image before you even reach for an EQ. Hope that helps. If you have any questions, leave them here below the video on the post, and I'll try to answer them. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. Hey, and thanks to everybody that came out to the Creative Live class that we did last week. Did a 2-day master class in San Francisco with the great people at Creative Live on EQ, on compression. I'm going to put the link in this video to that in case you're interested in checking that out. But just since I'm on the heels off of that, thanks for the thousands of you that joined the class for free and watched and streamed it. It was so encouraging. And thanks to the whole crew at Creative Live, probably some of the best people I've worked with. Very professional, very fun. They love what they do, and they made my job very easy so I could just show up and teach you guys and have fun and answer your questions. So it was a blast. Thanks for all of you that supported it just by watching it and getting up and staying up late. Some of you out there in Australia and Korea and all over the world. Appreciate your support. I hope you have a great week. Go make some great music. We'll talk to you soon.